Imperial Warlords. Some were very successful, some were justified and morally good, others were evil, and more were just very ineffective morons. This video will be about who I believe are the top 5 worst Imperial Warlords from a tactical and strategic point of view. It's not about the morally worst Imperial Warlords, nor is it going to be about the post-Endor Imperials who were part of the legitimate Empire. Therefore, I do not have idiots like Xandil Karivas and Ishanil Raz on this list. With that, on to the top 5 list. The 5th worst Imperial Warlord in my view is Sandor Delvardis. Now, Delvardis was a pretty average Imperial officer, but engaged in an instance of domestic assault, and was also a massive idiot. To start, after Palpatine's death at Endor, Delvardis refused to join Artus, Cain, and the Alignment, which would have become one of the most successful Imperial Warlord kingdoms of the post-Endor era. Also, on the strategic and tactical side, Delvardis lost pretty much every battle that he took part in. He lost hard against the New Republic during the Delvardis campaign, where he attempted to take the Celeste system, but was defeated, and the New Republic also fed his faction misinformation, which he acted on against other Imperial Warlords. But despite his major losses, Delvardis held the Eridu system in the deep core and began construction on a Super Star Destroyer. He then joined the Dark Empire after Palpatine's resurrection, and had his first and only recorded major victory in the Battle of Metelos, where he orbitally bombarded and killed 5 billion people. After Palpatine's final death on Onderon and the fracturing of the Dark Empire, Delvardis once again went out on his own against other warlords and didn't gain anything. In the end, he was gassed on Toss Beacon by Dala, who then took over all of his holdings. In 4th place, I have Deneta Pita, who was one of Palpatine's Grand Admirals. But Pita was both an idiotic tactician and a genocidal maniac. The Grand Admiral had been a political appointee and had very little skill, so all he did was go around the Outer Rim and depopulate alien worlds. After Endor, Pita started with all of his stolen wealth from its Outer Rim genocides, a very large personal fleet, and almost immediately controlled one of the most powerful shipyards and sections of the entire galaxy with a planetary shield, being the Corellia system. He was able to control Corellia through bribery, which also shows his lack of military skill, being able to coerce a single planetary sector with an Imperial fleet. He also had at his helm a torpedo sphere that can fire salvos of 500 proton torpedoes at a time, which could absolutely wreck Star Destroyers. This brings me to the Battle of Tralos, where Pita's fleet, which could replenish any losses due to the shipyards of Corellia, faced off against Grunder's armada. Despite having a massive advantage, Pita was denied a victory as all forces were annihilated in the battle, and the ending was a draw with his death. The 3rd worst Imperial Warlord in my view is Utox Prentiok, who was an Imperial Moff, and after the death of Palpatine, this guy appeared to go somewhat insane as he felt that he was destined to rule the Empire because of ancient treaties that he had read. He then ditched his Moff's uniform to wear robes that were worn by the Emperor's personal advisors because he felt that would make him look more like an emperor. He then faced competition in his own area, and his own forces then moved into the Warnall sector, while he still faced competition in areas that he controlled. Prentiok then found that he had to battle other warlords everywhere, and conflicts were advocated by the New Republic agents who fed both warlords misinformation in the hopes of stoking an intra-imperial civil war. The war between the two expansionist warlords dragged on for more than 2 years, consuming a great deal of Prentiok's resources for no gain at all. He was very self-centered, naming his own flagship after himself, being called the Prentiok. He also then renamed his faction as the Prentiok Dominion, because he had such a massive ego. The guy also did a lot of gambling and had extremely violent mood swings whenever anything went wrong, which was quite often as he believed that nothing was his fault. Initially, the New Republic even bypassed Prentiok because they didn't view him as even a big threat, but they engaged his forces after he tried to kill their diplomats. The New Republic then drove from Morja to Prentiok's dominion and engaged his forces in the decisive siege of Bomis Kuri. After his capture, Prentiok's forces all crumbled because he had no real command structure other than himself. 2nd place might seem a little odd to you, but I put the insane Dark Jedi Joruus C'baoth. For those who don't know, Joruus C'baoth was a Sparti clone of the original Joruus C'baoth who died on the outbound flight, and this version was crazy. He eventually came to serve Grand Admiral Thrawn during the Thrawn campaign, and was obsessed with obtaining Jedi in exchange for his aid to Thrawn. First, I consider C'baoth to be an Imperial Warlord, as in his view all of Grand Admiral Thrawn's forces were under his command through the Force. Also, the Mad Dark Jedi controlled various aspects of Thrawn's forces through battle meditation and mind control. He also controlled all of Wayland as his own dictatorial kingdom through the Force. So Sabaoth viewed himself as an Imperial Warlord in many ways, and saw himself as the one who would control the galaxy. Although Sabaoth's battle meditation supported Thrawn's forces by coordinating naval fleets, he was also extremely unstable. The insane Dark Jedi also had very violent mood swings like Prentiok, except he was a Force user, so you can imagine the danger and unpredictability there. He was also frequently killing many of Thrawn's military personnel who, in his view, were his own soldiers to control and coordinate at will. One notable example was General Frija Koval, who was Thrawn's greatest ground general and one of the Empire's best tacticians. Sabaoth was also so unstable that Grand Admiral Thrawn and many other Imperials had Ysalamari with them to protect themselves from Sabaoth's force abilities. Now, the absolute worst Imperial Warlord of all time, in my view, has to be Trioculus. This guy was the dumbest of the dumb post-Endor Imperials. Let's start by insulting his intelligence before moving on to his strategic and tactical abilities. Trioculus was the fake son of Palpatine who had the support of the Central Committee of Moffs to challenge Ysani Isard's claim as Emperor over what was left of the Empire following the deaths of Papa Palps. Trioculus had electrical implants in his fingers to give off the impression that he had Force lightning, which he used way too often that they began to fail. He also believed that if he put on Darth Vader's right glove on his hand that he would gain Force abilities to choke people, which, why would anyone even think that? Aside from that, Trioculus tried to prove his legitimacy by killing anyone who questioned his claims to lead the Empire and sent forces on wasteful missions. The guy also killed two of his Grand Admirals, being Milton Tackle for questioning his abilities to lead while high on spice, and the other was Rufon Tigellinus, who was given menial tasks before his assassination. Trioculus also at one point was frozen in carbonite by the Hutts because he was just that stupid. Additionally, a dude pretending to be Kadan staged a coup in Trioculus' empire because Trioculus was being that dumb that this Kadan no longer viewed him as a good figurehead. Like, how bad do you have to be so unstable that people believe that you're no longer even fit to be a figurehead? Anyways, Trioculus would eventually regain control of what was left of his forces as many fleets began to desert his empire. Trioculus then died while trying to get married to robot Princess Leia, who killed him with laser eyes. Literally, the end of Trioculus' story has to be one of the most wildest EU moments. This list is just who I believe are the top 5 worst Imperial Warlords of the post-Endor era. Do you agree or disagree? Who do you think are the top 5 worst Imperial Warlords? Write in the comments, and thank you for watching.